Hello and welcome back to the Money Mindset Hub podcast. I'm your host, Carla Townsend, a money mindset and success coach who helps purpose-driven women dissolve money blocks and earn more so they can create a life and business that they never want to escape. Today, I have Janine Mix with me. She's a Christian entrepreneur, author of the best-selling book, Buy the Damn Coffee, a speaker, podcast host of Permission to Prosper podcast, and investor who turned her financial life around from being $120,000 in debt to becoming a multimillionaire by the age of 33, if I'm correct. After years of frustration with conventional financial advice focused on strict budgeting and cutting expenses, Janine finally experienced a breakthrough by unlearning those limiting approaches and transforming her relationship with money. This pivotal shift empowered her to take bold, strategic actions that led to complete financial freedom by the age of 33. Janine believes that more wealth in the hands of women will change the world and is passionate about helping women get out of their own way and break financial barriers to build generational wealth. Welcome, Janine.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here with you.
I just have to say, by the age of 33 is pretty damn impressive. I love it. Well, that's how old I am right now.
It's amazing.
So I'm like, that is so amazing. And I just want to take everyone back to what was your life before then? Like, where did this all start? What made you just go, that's it, let's go, I'm taking complete control? And did you have that age in mind, like a timeline in mind when you started this, or where did it all begin?
Absolutely not. I did not have a timeline. I just knew it kind of where the pain and the suffering began is where the change started. And I would say that it was right after I graduated college, probably about a year and a half into that experience, because I had gotten the typical advice, go to a good college, get a good degree, get a good job, except for my parents didn't prepare for me. And I wanted to go to school for acting. I didn't even want to go to school, actually. I just wanted to go to Hollywood and be in movies. And my parents were like, well, you need to go to college for a real job. And so they asked me to apply for some colleges for a totally different field. I ended up applying for marine biology because I was like, well, I guess I like the ocean, so maybe I'll do something like that. I got accepted, and before I committed to that, I sat my parents down again and I said, I just don't want to do this. This isn't what I want to do. And this seems like a total waste of time. So then they were like, well, all right, you can go for acting, but you still have to go to school for it. And so I was encouraged to go to the best school, right, to get the best degree because it's a very competitive market. So I went to a private university in Los Angeles, and it was very expensive. It was $55,000 a year. I had to take loans for that. And so fast forward after graduation, all the loans and the reality hits me, and I'm paying $1,200 every single month just to pay my loans, let alone living in Los Angeles. So I didn't get to go on auditions. I didn't get to act. I just had to work multiple jobs to try to make ends meet. And I had done that for so long and so hard. And I was so unhappy. Like, I was miserable. I couldn't go out to dinner with my friends. You know, some of my friends had wealthy families that like paid for their education. There's nothing wrong with that, but I didn't have that. And so they'd go to bars and go to restaurants. And I'm like, I don't have the money for this. So I wasn't living a good or exciting or fun life. I was completely drowning in debt and just overwhelmed. I honestly felt like I was ill. Like, I felt like I was bringing on so much stress and anxiety and torment over my student loans that I was going to probably get sick. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really believe in that kind of energy. And so fast forward several more years, I meet this guy. He ends up telling me he is going to move to Montana. And it wasn't until he told me he was going to move to Montana that I was like, I think I love this guy. I'm super unhappy. I'm super unhappy here. I'm miserable. I'm making decent money in my jobs, but I don't have anything left to show for it. And at the time, I was 22. And I thought, you know what? What's it going to hurt to move? Like, I can always move back. I can always do something else, but I'm dying in this industry here. I'm literally dying in Los Angeles. And at the same time, like, you know, we're told, you know, cut out your coffee, no debt, all that's wrong, you know. And I was doing budgets and cash and envelopes with my sister, who at the time was going through, she was living off food stamps. So she wasn't really the person I should have been getting financial advice from, because she wasn't where I wanted to be. And at the same time, I'm dressing celebrities like Paris Hilton and Katy Perry and Faith Hill, and I'm seeing like they aren't cutting out their coffees and they don't have cash in envelopes. You know, they got the American Express black credit card. Do you remember that one? And I'd be like, this is cool. And so I knew there had to be another way. And so when he told me he was moving, I thought this is my chance to change something in my life. I had everything and nothing to lose at the same time. I had to do something. And whatever that wasn't going to happen for me in LA. I just knew that I couldn't get ahead. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't keep my head above the water. So I decided to move to Montana with a guy I had just started dating, to a place I had never been with no job. So quite a bit of a risk there. And it ended up working out. And this isn't like Prince Charming sweeps her off her feet. And, it's not that story. In fact, it would take us several years to decide what we wanted to do, which was to start investing in real estate. But at the time, my boyfriend at the time, my husband now, had bad credit. We had no money. And yeah, that's where we decided to be like, let's do real estate. And so the real shift was when he handed me Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where I understood that there were the different quadrants and passive income. And it definitely opened up something for me to be like, oh, there's another way to look at money besides always selling your time for it. And I believe there are two quick ways to wealth, not get rich quick, but the two best and quick ways to wealth are through business and real estate. And so we just decided to choose real estate as the vehicle for our financial freedom, which at the time I thought was crazy. First of all, we didn't have money. Second of all, it was more debt. What do you mean? I'm $120,000 in student loan debt and you want me to take a loan on a rental property? What are you talking about? Because I had the good credit. And so I was like, I couldn't reconcile those things. I just thought it was absolutely crazy, asinine. Everybody's telling me I'm crazy, don't do it. Like, debt is wrong and bad and all of these things. And I ended up taking that leap. And on that first real estate deal, it paid off $80,000 of my student loans in 3 years. So once I realized that this can work, we went all in. We went all into real estate, and we did that for the last 14 years. But around year 7 was when we really started to be like, whoa, we can do anything we want when we want. We now have enough cash flow that's replaced our job income. And that's a pretty amazing feeling. We were able to pay off that student loan. But it's interesting, the emotions around debt, because I actually have more debt now than I had then, but it's all in real estate. And I don't feel bad about it. And it's not the same anxiety because I had to understand there are different forms of debt, and money is a tool. And the more that you learn about it and how to use it, you can actually use it to your advantage, and you should. And one thing which is cool about not having any money is we got really good at learning how to get other money to make real estate happen. So, the banks didn't loan to us at first. It was a lot of private investors and things like that took a leap of faith with us. But yeah, that was the big shift for us, was really doing that first real estate deal and being like, whoa, we could do this. Even back then, like when it cash flowed like $100, we were like, that's amazing. We probably wouldn't take anything that cash flowed only $100 now, but to us, it was like, this is possible. This is possible. We can do this. It works. We're not crazy. And we kept doing that until we built up a $15 million real estate portfolio.
I love that whole story because you touched on so many things just there. I mean, even at the beginning, right? You were working the normal path, the path that you were told that this is the way to be successful. Go to uni, get a good job, all of the things. That's exactly the same way that I grew up until it gets to a certain point where you're like, this isn't working. And I feel like we are very similar on that, because when my husband will remind me of this, whenever we met, like this was back 14 years ago, I was working 4 jobs. He's like, you were working 4 jobs. You're working 7 days a week, because I was doing the same thing as you. I had the cash in the different envelopes and mapped it all out. But I feel like those principles of being able to manage money when you're a young person are still so timeless. However, yes, there is a different way to do it. So you touched on there too, debt, right? Debt is one of those things that most people, they fear and they move away from, instead of learning how to actually leverage it to earn more, to then earn passive. Love that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It is incredible. I've read it a couple of times. And it really does. If you haven't read it, please go read it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It is going to open up your mind to so many more possibilities, because this is something that also, we might touch on this belief, but you've got to work really hard. You've got to work really hard for money. That is debunked in so many different ways. I definitely agree you've got to work hard, right? But there are smarter ways to do it. Like you said, leverage debt. There was two areas that you noticed you could actually do that, whether you wanted to earn money from business or whether you wanted to go into real estate. And look how quickly it started to cash flow.
Yeah.
But you have to be intentional, right? So be intentional and also begin to start debunking those money myths. I like to call them money myths, money blocks, same thing, that you were taught about money. So let's dive into some of that. What
Mm-hmm.
were some of the money blocks or money myths, as I like to call them, that you had to debunk to actually make this happen, especially when it comes to debt
Yeah.
and working hard and smart, all those things? What were the ones that came up for you?
I'll share some, but I have to just lay it out there that I had to change everything I believed about
Mm.
money. It wasn't just a few things. It was, I had to unlearn everything I'd ever known about money, how to make it, how to look at it, how to view it, how to spend it, how to save it, how to invest it, literally everything. I will give you a few of my money influencers that impacted me that I had to work through, and you still work through. It doesn't matter what income level you get to. You have these myths, you have these what I call money influencers that impact you at every stage, but you get better at recognizing, is this true? Like, is this my past story? Is this my, I like to say, poverty mind or prosperity mind? Is this my poverty mind speaking to me right now, trying to make me believe what I used to believe about myself? Or is this fear? Like, what is the scarcity mind telling me right now? And how do I shift that perspective into the prosperity mind? And I think for me, the biggest one was, if you have debt, you cannot be financially free. And that was just drilled into me. And I was so confused because here I was told to go to school at all costs, right? Get a good job, go to school, get a good job. That's what you do. But not everybody has a ton of money to save up for college. And I didn't have grants and loans and things like that either. So, yeah, I could have gone to a cheaper college. I still would have come out with debt because I had no money. so,
Yeah.
so I think like that was the hardest thing to understand was, first of all, I don't know who decided that being debt free is synonymous with being financially free. I know a lot of debt free broke people. I know a lot of debt free broke people. So, what is financial freedom? And for me, it was not working a job I hated until I was 65 and then only then travel the world. I was like, no, no, no. I want to travel the world when I can experience it fully and not through the view of a tour bus. So, I made it a priority to like focus on that. And so I had to unlearn these beliefs around debt. I also had to learn, like, there's a lot of wealthy people that have a ton of cash that don't use their cash. They still use debt. Why? Like, what is this tool? And unfortunately, the things that were taught, I mean, the fact that I could even sign on a $50,000 year loan at 18 years old is predatory lending to me. I just think that it's so wrong. I couldn't go get a car, but I can sign on that. I couldn't get a lease. I had to have my mom on a lease for like a house with some of my friends in college. I wasn't even old enough to get that or have the credit score to get that. But I can sign on $55,000 a year. This is stupid. This is totally stupid. And so we are only taught consumer debt. I don't like to use good debt, bad debt. I don't like to use emotions and feelings with money. I don't like to give money emotions. I mean, you are emotional when you spend and stuff, but I don't like to give money emotions. And so you have leverage debt and consumer debt. Unfortunately, you are shoved in your face. And I think now more than ever for the youth, like you see your favorite YouTubers just throwing Lamborghinis out there like that was nothing, right? So now more than ever, you're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And so we're taught really easily to go get that credit card and just put it on there and deal with it later. That's not a problem. But no one teaches real estate investing. They'll teach you about a home mortgage, but they don't teach you about a mortgage for a renter and how that is different, and how it doesn't matter if you're paying interest on a loan as long as the property cash flows and you have a tenant that's paying down the property, because you have so many tax benefits. You're going to have, appreciation. You're going to have this asset that's making you money for years to come, if not your lifetime. So you don't learn about any of that. You just kind of get pushed into this consumer debt hole, And so that was
Yeah.
a big belief that all debt is wrong and I won't be financially free unless I'm completely debt free. Because what that also did to me too, Carla, is what that did was it made me only focus on the debt. So I couldn't even focus on anything else. I couldn't focus on making more money. I was selling literally all of my time. I was working as much as I could. And there's only so much, that you can do. And so it had me focusing on all the wrong things. It had me focusing on my depravity, on my lack, especially in my budget, right? I'm working so hard, but I can't enjoy my coffee. Like, shame on me if I spend $5, which I didn't put it on a credit card, but I spent it and someone's telling me that it's this one thing that's keeping me broke, and I'm like, who decided that coffee was the thing? Because I've read it and I'm sure you have too. I've
Oh,
read it in
yeah.
so many books. Every time I read it in a book, I stop reading the book. I'm like, I can't because there's no books out there for men, like written by men for men telling them cut out your golf membership and skip your beer. Like, because that's
No.
not going to get you the breakthrough. And so I'm not into that like guilt and that $5 thing. And because I was so focused on debt, I could only focus on, well, what could I cut out? What could I cut out? I can make more, but what could I cut out? And how do I roll that over? And I was fixated. And I think that this thought, it makes you actually scared more into poverty.
Yeah.
Because you're just like so afraid. You're not taking risk. You're not getting a new job. You're in your comfort zone. Like, it just scares you into poverty. And so I think that really was a huge thing for me that really hung me up for a long time.
Yeah. And look, let's talk about that because that whole cutting expenses, there is only so much that you can cut, but then you are not experiencing any fulfillment or any joy in your life. And that doesn't make it fun. I am
Yeah.
100% on the same page as you because I believe that you can save, you can invest, you can pay down debt, and you can also live your life all at the same time.
Yeah.
It is just about being intentional around where you're spending your money. So when you said about not giving money emotion, it's a neutral tool. It is just like a pen,
Mm-hmm.
but it's however you feel emotionally about it depends on how you're going to use said
Mm-hmm.
pen or money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it doesn't need to be so emotional, but the thing is we're not taught about it. And you hit the nail on the head there. We're not taught about it. We're not taught about it in schools. We're not taught about taxes. You're not taught about investing. You're not even taught about business and how to be an entrepreneur in schools. You
Mm-hmm.
are literally what I wrote down when you were talking is the system is rigged to keep you broke.
Yes,
Maybe
it
that
is.
is what we need to call this podcast because
Yeah.
it is. It is rigged to keep you in a certain cycle and you are only going to learn how to get out of that cycle and how to do things different because here's the kicker. Nothing will change if nothing changes. We've
Mm-hmm.
all heard that before, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to change, but then how are you supposed to change when you don't know or you don't
Yeah.
have people in your environment, in your circle that are doing
Yeah.
different things?
Yeah.
It's about stepping out of it and like you said, that whole cut the coffee, it's the $5 coffee. It's never the $5 coffee. It's actually got nothing to do with the $5 coffee. It's about these emotional spending habits and behaviors.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
around not feeling safe having more money and being able to hold more money or the knowledge to being able to grow that money. It's
Yeah.
actually got nothing to do with $5 coffee. Treat yourself. Buy the damn coffee,
Buy the
right?
damn copy.
Buy the damn coffee. That's the name of Janine's book. Buy the damn coffee because it doesn't matter. That $5
Mhm.
is not going to keep you broke.
Right. Right.
But it's going to be all the emotional behaviors that
Yeah.
actually keep you stuck,
Yep.
right? Because again, lack of safety.
Yep. It's not the money in your wallet that's keeping you broke. It's what's in your head about money. And I talk about in my book, I have a whole chapter on your 3 money influencers. And it really comes down to like, what did you hear? What did you learn? And what did you experience? And you might have multiple examples of that from multiple people who influenced you, multiple things that people say, what society says, like that's where it's like, where did I get that if you were debt free or financially free? Well, I mean,
Mm.
we all know who we got it from, Shmay Ramsey, you know what I mean? We all know where that came from. And that was his story and his event. And, he went I think he did file bankruptcy investing in real estate. And so he got burned. And so he never wanted to deal with that again. And so he built his entire mountain in life and business and career on that. There's nothing wrong with that. I do think that like some people are so out of control with their money. You need Dave Ramsey. You need to be able to and if you like his personality and you mesh with him and every coach, every money person, you're going to relate to differently. He was never my vibe, not to hit on him. He just wasn't my vibe. I didn't want to be told I was stupid. I didn't believe that this was the only way to financial freedom. And I definitely knew and understood that there was another way. So yeah, I think too, when you say like you have to change something in your mindset, That's why I moved. I could not do that in my circumstance in LA for several reasons. One, I was around a lot of people who money didn't matter to them, but it did matter to me. And I was hurting myself more financially trying to keep up with them. So I needed to leave. I needed to get out of that situation. I needed to start somewhere fresh that I could actually start making money, like actually see it in my account and build. I couldn't do that with all of my bills in Los Angeles. I wasn't living in a really nice apartment. I was living in a studio apartment that was filled with cockroaches. And it was so bad that literally I would come home late at night and I would put my purse down. All the lights are off. I would open up my door, turn on the light, and start stomping in as many as I could. Like, that's how infested my apartment was. Okay. So I wasn't in luxury and I was still paying over $1,000 for this stupid apartment that I couldn't eat in, sleep in, or shower in because, like, it was disgusting. So I wasn't like being frivolous. I just was in an environment that did not allow me to thrive. And you might be in that right now. If you're listening to this, you might be in that right now. If you want something to change, you have to do something to change it. And it might be a move. Maybe it's a move in a career, a move in your life, a move in a job, a move in a relationship. Like, I had to change everything. It was my personality. I understand it's risky. Like, maybe I have a higher tolerance for risk because I moved to a place I'd never been with a guy I'd just started dating with no job. That's pretty risky. But like I said, like, okay, I also am resilient. And if it didn't work out, I'd figure something out too. But I knew nothing was going to improve where I was because I had been in this cycle of just endless working and not seeing any money in my bank account. So sometimes you just got to make that big pivot and that big shift in order to actually change.
And you touched on something there to your environment. It's not just where you're living and the lifestyle that you're living in. I suppose that pressure to keep up with the Joneses, right? But it's also the people that you surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, the people you were with, they weren't worried about money. They had money. They had backings. They could do whatever. But you trying to fit in with them just kept you feeling lack and scarcity with your money. So you had to move. So I think for everyone listening here, it's not just your physical environment, but it is also those relationships, those connections that you have. They are really going to dictate your bank account. And it does sound, I suppose, cliche, but you do become the average of the people, the 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether it's 5, but it sounds good.
They always say it's 5. It sounds good.
You do become the average of the people that you hang around because you're going to adopt their mindset. You're going to adopt their habits, their behaviors. And one thing that I notice, and you probably pick up on it a lot too, is around people's language around money, finances. This is too expensive. That's too expensive. Oh, they're rich. They're greedy. They just have all of these things. Even those little comments, those little complaining, the whinging around money and the cost of money and how everything's so expensive and people and what they do with it, the judgment, the jealousy, whatever it is.
Yep.
All of those one, triggers to see what it is that you actually want, right? And 2, areas that you need to evolve and let go of. Because the more that you complain, the more that you're going to keep yourself stuck in that cycle and you will never cultivate an abundant mindset. What do you have to say about that? Did you have to let go of relationships as well?
I mean, I moved away from my family. I actually I love my family, but this is the first time I've lived in the same state with my sister in 30 years. And and what's really interesting is I see her a lot now. She lives in Arizona. I live in Arizona. And she always says, "Oh, this is bougie." That's her new thing. This is bougie. Because I'm in Scottsdale and she's like, "Oh, we're going to a bougie restaurant. Oh, we're getting ready to close on a house." She's like, "Oh, this is a bougie house," and like, I'm like, that's your money story, right? At least she's read my book so I can like call it out. I'm like, that's your money story, right? Like, and I've asked her, I'm like, can you stop using the word bougie? Like, what does that even mean? It's your insecurity because you see wealth differently. You still see it in that scarcity, poverty mindset. And every time you say that, it like brings me down and I'm not interested in having it. I just went out to dinner with, I don't know the combined net worth of people, but I'm talking like, the one guy would like, he goes, "Oh yeah, I was a consultant to like the czar of Dubai." And I was like, Okay. Like, that's so cool. And you know what I loved about that dinner is I was the brokest in the room. That's the kind of room you want to get in. If you actually want to
Mm.
grow and be pulled up and out of your circumstance, you got to get into a room of people who are doing something with their life. And they're not going to let you in that room unless you've changed your relationship with money, because no one wants to be with Debbie Downer who's like, everything's bougie. This dinner is bougie. These people are bougie. Like, no, these people are business owners, entrepreneurs, risk takers. And it's amazing. And I'm inspired and I'm motivated by it every time. And I'm like, that's why we moved down here, so that we could be around more of that entrepreneurial energy. We were kind of in a little bubble in Montana, great quality of life, love it, have great friends there, great community, but I wasn't being expanded anymore. Personally and professionally, I wasn't being expanded. So we took another leap and we moved. And it's been really, really great. And it's like starting over as far as like being a small fish in a big pond. And it's great. I'm learning so many things about myself. But yeah, I stopped taking advice from my sister about money a long time ago. Okay. Because I didn't realize she was on food stamps and going through these things when she was trying to give me advice. And she meant well. My family has always meant well for me, but they didn't know any better. I believe I'm the first millionaire in my family. I don't know of anybody else that was able to accomplish that. So when you're a trailblazer in your family, likely you're going to leave some family behind, but hopefully you can also raise those ships. A rising tide lifts all ships. And I've seen my nephews start to ask more about investing and other things. And I've been able to influence my family in other ways. Now my sister's actually getting ready to potentially get a Chick-fil-A franchise. And so that's really exciting. And this will be like some of the best money she's ever made. And I can tell she's like uncomfortable about it, but I'm like, how exciting. She's doing something that she probably wouldn't have done, had she not like seen what you can do. And that's what a trailblazer does. They go before you and they help blaze the trail so you don't have to. They show you what is possible. And you can raise up your friends and your family. And if you can't, sometimes you have to let those people go. And it's okay.
Yeah.
No hard feelings. You definitely, who you surround yourself with matters.
100%. And the thing is, you can't attract what you judge.
Mm-mm.
And you can't attract more than what it is that you are surrounded by if that is what's consuming your mind, because your thoughts consume your mind. They become your beliefs. The more that you're around people who have a belief system that is the opposite of abundance, the more that you're just naturally going to operate in that way. Even if you consciously think you don't, right? It just shows in your energy. It shows in your behaviors and your habits.
Yep.
I'm so excited for your sister. That's so amazing. And that's
No,
such a
it's so
huge
cool.
step, right?
Yeah.
I love that you touched on that too, that your nephews are now starting to change their relationship with money too, because I think especially now for kids, and like I said to you before, I have 3 kids. So we are constantly teaching them what we didn't know that we wish we did. Like they have investment accounts.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
what 3-year-old?
Amazing.
But I wish I had that when I was 3. But
Totally.
like even that is so different. So we're trying to do this now to set them up for
Yep.
when they're older to buy into property. That is our
Yep.
thing. I'm like,
Yep.
this money will not be spent on cars because it's depreciating assets.
Yep.
And my dad taught me many things, but he was like, never spend money on cars.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, you buy the property that cash flows enough for you to pay for the car. Like
Exactly.
that's the thing is you got to buy the assets first. The assets are going to be the thing that helps you find financial freedom for sure.
100%. Did you have any times of self-sabotage when you noticed that your income began to grow, your net worth began to grow? Did you have any struggles in being able to hold it? Because you and I both know that it's always your behaviors. And when people don't feel safe with the money, the more that they earn, the more that they have, the more that those self-sabotaging patterns begin to appear. Did you have any of those come up?
I mean, yes, I feel like you have those come up, like I said, at multiple income levels. For a very long time, I couldn't even say that I was a millionaire. I felt uncomfortable about that. I couldn't even say that I was an investor. I would say my husband is, even though I'm like, wait, we own the company and we've done it together. But I'm like, he's the investor. I'm just, like, I just couldn't say it. So yeah, imposter syndrome is real. I mean, and I think it's like going back to your influencers. What did you hear, learn, and experience? When it's so unfamiliar and you're shaping a new identity, it's really easy to get sucked back into the identity you're familiar with. I think it happens all the time. I can't think of a specific moment where like all my finances went crashing down because of it, but I can remember specific moments where I avoided my finances completely because I was like, oh, I just can't. It's too much. I didn't want to log into my bank account and see anything. And be faced with the truth. I was too scared. And I don't even know if the truth was that bad. I just didn't want to do it. I wanted to avoid it. There were times, even at the beginning of real estate, when you're going through a learning curve and learning a new skill, it seemed like my husband was like totally getting the skill faster than me. So then I felt really insecure and I didn't want to ask questions or look stupid with the bank and blah, blah, blah. So I would just sign paperwork and kind of let him do it. And then I was like, this isn't helping me learn. And he's not doing it on purpose. He's obviously, I'm like, leave me out of it. I'll just show up at the bank when I need to sign it. And it wasn't until I had a realization like, listen, we're building this together. And if he dies, I'm not going to know what to do. I'm not going to know how to handle our assets. I'm not going to know where things are. I certainly trust him, but like, if I'm just signing stuff, it's not very financially responsible of me either. And I remember reading a book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming. I mentioned that book in my book as well. And she had grown up in a wealthy family but wasn't taught the knowledge, didn't get that passed on, but she was taught you should marry someone that's good with money. So she married a financial advisor. Turns out this financial advisor had a gambling addiction and got her millions of dollars worth of debt. And then they got divorced. So I'm like, when I heard that, not that I believed my husband could do anything like that, but you never know. And I was like, wow, what I really learned from that is that I'm the only one that should care and will care more about my financial situation than anybody. Like, hopefully when you're in a happy and healthy marriage, you both work together. And I really believe in togetherness with your spouse, not separation of your finances. But there was a separation in the learning curve, at least I thought. He was scared. He didn't know things. He just did it anyways. I remember being like, do you understand what the banker just said? And he'd be like, no, but I feel good about it. I'm like, oh, just a different way to process or take risk, different risk tolerances. But yeah, I think that identity shift and that imposter syndrome and telling myself, my biggest belief was always like, wealth and learning how to make stupid money, like I call it stupid money, because I've just met so many people that had stupid amount of money, and I'm like, they learned something secret in rooms, and that's not for me. And I believe that for so long. And do I think that hindered my ability to make me more money? Yes. Do I think it hindered my ability to keep more money or invest more money? Yes, because I was never someone who's like, don't give me money because I'm afraid I'm going to be greedy. I always knew my heart. And I think people do that. They're like, money will change me. I don't want anything to do with it. Money doesn't change you. It magnifies who you already are. If you're a greedy person, you're probably going to be greedy with money. If you weren't a greedy person, you're probably going to be very generous with money. The easiest way to combat greediness is generosity. Try it and you'll be surprised. I don't think you can be a generous, greedy person. So yeah, I had to work through a lot of those beliefs and at different stages in different businesses, even through the failures of businesses. There was almost a near bankruptcy in one of our business deals that we did in our second year of marriage. And I held on to that failure. Like, I wore that as a title. I was like, I am a failure and I can't do anything right. See, there's the message again. I can't do anything right. Wealth isn't for me. Look, you tried and you lost $500,000. And it was like, no, that's not necessarily true. This was a good deal. I actually increased the business quite a bit. We ended up getting involved with some horrible, greedy people. Turns out that it doesn't matter if you have a contract. If people don't follow through on their contract, then you have to take it to litigation. But what we learned from that is like, have multiple strategies, but also bounce back, because money can be made again. Knowledge, when you talk about your kids and the accounts, that's great. You have to teach your kids and the future generations about money. If they don't have the knowledge mixed with the money, they're going to lose it. It's statistically, by the second generation, they're going to be gone. They're going to buy that dumb car and thing that they didn't need, because they don't have the knowledge. I think it's great to pass on money to your family. I think it's even better to pass on the knowledge.
100%. Well, clearly we're on the same page. We love speaking about the relationship with money and money mindset, because that is the most important thing. Anyone can live off a budget if they want to.
Yeah.
But it is based on their mentality around money. So that honestly is the number one thing that we focus on with our kids. My daughter, since kindergarten age, she was about 4 or 5, she would just say, I love money. I love money. And I'm like, yes, you do. Money will provide you everything you ever wanted, and you'll be able to give back, and you'll be able to do so many incredible things with money. So she's always said that. And some people, this is the kicker, some people will hear her say that and be like, what? But I'm like, yes, honey.
Yes,
you
she
love
does.
money. Money loves you.
Yeah.
But some people will feel ick when they hear that. They're like, oh, what? Because they've still got the scarcity loop within them, and they haven't broken out of that. But I love it because you're right. It's not just knowing what to do with money when you do have it, but it's actually being able to look at it in a way that it is supportive of you. It's a relationship. It really is. Like you said, you were
Mhm.
in a stage of avoidance there once, and that didn't
Mhm.
help you. That didn't
Nope.
serve you. That didn't grow your wealth. But when you started to take responsibility, you started to get aware of the stories that were repeating itself, and you started to actually address them one by one. And as you said, this is something I do get asked a lot, and you might too, is do you ever just fully get rid of your money blocks, money myths, money influences?
Nope.
No.
Nope. They just come up at different times, and sometimes they come out and you're like, "What?" I went shopping,
Mm.
gosh, I think this was like 2 years ago. I'm not big on like designer bags. It's not really my thing. Nothing wrong with it, but I do like feeling good in my clothes and things. I'm not, again, not labels, but like just a vibe. I like the vibe, right? So I go to Scottsdale. I had flown from Montana and I went to Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall, and I had a beautiful experience where I had a stylist dressing me. I had a big photo shoot coming up. I got all these outfits. I didn't even realize that they closed. It was Neiman Marcus. They closed it all down because they were closing early. And so I'm in the fitting room. I didn't even notice the store was closed till I came out. He was absolutely wonderful. I'm going down the escalator. They open up the gates to me. I feel like I'm a Kardashian right now, like some like private shopping experience. I felt amazing. I get to the hotel. I'm staying at this beautiful Marriott. I think it's like the original Marriott in Scottsdale. And I just start crying. And I'm like, why am I crying right now? What did I? And I was this shame and this guilt and all this stuff. And I called my husband and I'm like, I am struggling because I had never done that. I had never, like, it felt selfish to me. I had never done that. Usually my husband and I buy trips and experiences together, but I hadn't really like bought stuff just for me. It just felt very selfish. And I call him and he's like, I can't wait to see everything you got. I bet you look amazing. Like, he's helping me rewire that. And that was part of my money event. I had this experience in my book that I share where I had this very similar experience with my mom shopping, and we get home and she's like, okay, I had a great time. And then she goes, you need to wait till your daddy's asleep till you bring the bags in. And it was like, I had to hide it, right? There was shame and guilt and stuff around this purchase. And so that had come up. And here I am, like a multimillionaire, like buying not even that much money worth of clothes, to be honest. And I was crying. And I was like, oh, there's the money story. So these things will absolutely come up. They'll come up at different levels of revenue that you feel like you can't reach or are unattainable because you might plateau in your sales or something like that, because it is a lot of that mental work that you have to work through to be like, okay, or just like the focusing on the things that are going to be income generating. Sometimes we feel like we're distracting. We don't want to do sometimes the hard things that are the things we should be doing. Instead, we're like, maybe posting on social media thinking that's a priority, or scrolling or whatever. So it absolutely will affect you at multiple income levels, and it will affect you your entire life. But the cool thing is once you identify it and you name it, name it, claim it, like once you do that, you can see it and you can move from it quicker. I really like to use this mix shift framework. It's my last name, MIX. And it's like, what is the message that you're telling yourself? For me, buying those clothes, the message that I was telling myself is, I'm not worthy of the clothes. Like, this is selfish. That was the message that I was telling myself. So the I, that was the M. The I is, ask yourself the message that you keep repeating. We usually have the same one over and over again. Is it true? Ask yourself and be really honest. Sometimes in your life, maybe it's true. Sometimes I would think more than not, actually, it's not. Is it true I'm being super selfish? No, I mean, my husband wasn't there and he didn't buy anything, but I like clothes. He likes other things. So it's fine. And ultimately, I wasn't doing anything to like harm our situation or hide it or whatever. So was it true? No. And then what would I rather be telling myself? I look great and I love these clothes. Like cross out, that's the X, MIX. So the X is cross out that first message and rewrite the new one. The new one is, I feel great in these clothes and I love them. They were great. And it ended up being I felt so confident in that photo shoot. And I can tell you that photo shoot and for that product and the things I was doing made me way more money than the money I spent on the clothes. So yeah, I think that using the mix shift framework is really easy to identify when you have those stories kind of come up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always about that energy in which you are being received by other people too, right?
Mhm.
So the thing is, you could have just gone, no, this is selfish. I'm just going to take it all back. I'm not going to spend this money. I'm not going to feel good. But the thing is, that could be the very thing that builds that
Right.
confidence to put yourself out there, because the energy in which you feel is how you
Mhm.
show up and how you create whatever it is you're creating, whether it is, a connection with another person, whether it is something on social media. If you feel insecure, if you feel like you're holding back, if you feel like I can't do this because I'm selfish, I'm this, I'm that, all these labels that you're identifying with in that moment, it's going to affect how you're received. And
Mhm.
especially for women, we're so intuitive. So we
Yeah.
can feel that. We can feel if someone feels insecure. We
Yep.
can feel if something is off. So by you being able to receive that, which is so hard for women. It's always that receivership. We can be great at
Mhm.
making money and it coming in, but then it's like, oh, I've got to hold this. I've actually got to
Mhm.
accept this, that I'm worth it, because it's
Mhm.
tied into your self worth, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
you doing that is such a big inner shift. And then
Yeah.
it showed up, like you said, in this beautiful photo shoot that you had. That made you
Mhm.
more money because you felt
Mhm.
confident, because it was the energy in which was being
Yep.
received
Yep.
from doing that. I think it's
Yep.
amazing that you did that.
Yeah. Thank you. It was definitely an interesting experience, and yes, absolutely, there's whether you're investing in a coach or something in your business, you feel like, "Oh, I don't know." It accelerates your ability to make more money almost always if you're open to receiving it. It is a transferring of energy. Money is that way. It's a currency, it flows. You can sit here with money and you can't save or cut your way to wealth. I mean, maybe you could save your way to wealth and it's going to take a very long time. And I don't know how with inflation. So,
Yeah, no, no, I'm pretty sure inflation is like triple
yeah.
the
So,
interest rates if you want to save it.
yeah, so, like, inflation monster is gonna eat your money. So,
Yeah,
really, like, you have to be able to multiply your money. You have to learn to invest your money in order to really have that breakthrough. And so yeah, I just feel like investing in yourself to get to that next income level, whether it was for me the clothes or a coach or doing these things will accelerate your ability to multiply more, and it is supposed to move through you, the current, it's supposed to move through you through other people. And if you're just cutting your way and saving and penny pinching, your fists are literally closed, they're closed, you're white knuckled, they're tight, and no money can come through that. You cannot be a vessel for the money to move through if you have closed fists. So you have to open them up a little bit, release a little bit. Money should be fun. You said that at the beginning, like, money should be fun. It shouldn't all go to your bills and then you resent your life and your finances. Like, that's fun because you know what you're going to do then? You're going to harm yourself. You're going to harm yourself. You're going to say YOLO. You're going to put stuff on a credit card you couldn't afford because you hate your life and you're not enjoying your money. No, part of your budgeting and your money plan should include a percentage for fun. Like, have
100%.
fun with your money. Weird.
You need to be able to live your life, because otherwise,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, and I always say the whole reason that why this is even here, why this podcast is here, why this business is here, and you're probably the same too, but it's just because I don't want to get to the end of my life and have regrets.
No.
And of course, yes, I'm always thinking about future self. I'm also thinking about my 3 children and their futures and all of that. But at the same time, I'm still going to live my life. But you hit the nail on the head there. Is it's not harming the financial situation now or in the future. It's not affecting the goals. It's not affecting any of our vision, the North Star, right?
Mhm.
But you have to live, because if you don't, what sort of a life is that? Are you going to get to the end of your days and just have no fun experiences? You're going to be miserable. You're going to have all this money stacked up, but what's the point?
What's the point?
Now, it's not money for the sake of money, right? It's money is a tool to live the life that you don't want to escape.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even more importantly, money is the tool that not only can improve your life and your family's life and your community and those around you, but others. You are blessed to be a blessing. And in order to be blessed financially, to receive, you need to have to bless. And I feel
Yes.
like, so then make more, do more, use this tool to do a lot of good. When people say money doesn't matter and it shouldn't matter and you shouldn't focus on it and blah, 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 I'm like, okay, you know that organization that you love so much that you want to support? Guess what they need and what they fundraise for all the time? Money. You know what meets a real need in someone's life? Money, especially if they're hurting. It's a really cool way to show love. And I share a story in my book where my husband went to Iraq and they like laid down money in front of people so that they could buy their daughter back from ISIS. Like,
Mm.
you want to show someone love? You can give them a hug and tell them, I'm thinking of you. Or can you meet a real need in their life? Like money has so much ability to change the world, and money in the hands of good people, come on, unstoppable. So let that be the motivation. If you're worried about you and consuming and blah, blah, and all this stuff, let that be the motivation. That's like, if not for you, then for them, because
100%.
someone needs it. There's too much poverty in the world right now, and poverty is not a good thing. There's too much poverty in the world right now for you to stay poor. You want to help someone, it doesn't help from your lack. It helps from your abundance. So go change someone's life, be a vessel for this tool, be a better manager and steward of this tool so that you can go make a difference with it.
Oh my God. I feel like that was the mic drop moment
Yep.
because you're so right. You're so right in every way. It's just, it is a tool to be able to go and do so much good in the world. And I think too, what popped into my mind when you were speaking as well is, if you are feeling any guilt around your spending habits, it's probably because you're spending on things that actually don't matter to you. They're not even aligned with your
Yep.
values. You're trying to buy the fancy bag, the fancy car, or the new clothes every single paycheck because you're trying to keep up with someone else, because there's this image of you that you're trying to stay attached to. It's just your ego, right? That's your shadow coming up. So if you're feeling like that, it's because you're spending money on the things that you don't actually care about deep down, but you maybe are not willing to accept yet. So start to look into your ego, start to
Yeah.
look into your shadows. What's under the surface? Where are those beliefs coming from? Where are those patterns of behavior coming from? And start to change those and think, how can I actually do more good with this money?
Mm-hmm.
Will I care about the way that I'm spending this money in a few years to come? Is it going to make a difference? Is it going to make a difference in my life, in someone else's life? And if it is, you will always feel good about it
Yep.
every single time.
Yep. Yeah. When I used to look at my money and my budget, I used to avoid it. I was all clammy and like, like I don't want to be in this. I don't want to see it. But the more that you're in it, like I do this thing, Money Moves Monday. Every Monday I set some time aside to increase my financial knowledge and get into my money plan. And so the more I got into it, the more comfortable and more confident. And then the more I realized some of the things I was spending on money, like you said, it wasn't bringing me any enjoyment. It was taking up a lot of my cash. And I was like, oh, I don't actually like those things. Like, I don't need those things. The world's going to tell you need something because it's going to distract you from your ultimate calling and purpose in your life. I don't want to be distracted by that, but you're only going to be able to identify it if you're actually in your money. If you're really in it, it seems like very basic, the concept of budgeting. No one wants to do it, but it's the thing you need to do. I don't like to call it a budget. I like to call it a money plan. It makes me feel better because budgets just like make me cringe, but it's a money plan and it's a full year. You can like really see where you want to go with it, where you want to take money that's coming in. You can kind of predict some of the income, especially when you do have a W-2 income. You can kind of predict that more than entrepreneurship, but then you can see how much should you actually be paying yourself, because you didn't start a business to not pay yourself. Men don't do that. They're like, oh, let me stay in my business for 10 years and not pay myself. Don't create another job for you that takes you away from your family. Create an income, like a profit center is what I say. Create a profit center that impacts your life. But once you're in it, you're able to just prioritize more and be like, oh, this isn't even important to me. I didn't even enjoy, like maybe for me right now in my life, I actually don't enjoy eating out. It's like, it's expensive. I don't feel good after. Maybe I'm nearing 40. Maybe I've hit a certain place where just like wine and food just hits differently at restaurants now. And I would rather make my food at home, save a ton of money, and go spend that in Iceland.
Yeah.
I just have a different priority for where I want to spend that money. I'd rather have an experience than an item. And you cannot know that for yourself if you aren't looking at where your money is going. And I always say your dollars are soldiers. So, like, where are your soldiers? And don't let your soldiers fall into cracks that you don't know. There's money there. Everybody says, I have no time and no money. There's money there. There is time and there is money. And it's just maybe not going to the places that you feel empowered to do, but you don't know that unless you're really in your money.
Yeah, there's money leaks. I like to call them
Yep.
money leaks. There's money
Yep.
leaks everywhere. There's energetic leaks everywhere. And you
Yep.
really just need to be aware of that. Also, are we like twins? Because I
I
also
know.
call it a money plan.
That's
I
funny.
don't call it a budget because the same thing. It's just like a budget is cringe. And
Yes.
people are like, ugh, budget, you must be broke. But no, you're right. And I honestly, this is one question to everyone who feels resistance using a budget, money plan, call it what you will, same thing. You need to know what's coming in and what's going out. And I don't believe in tracking every dollar and cent. Like, I don't have time for that. But everything is automated. I know exactly what's coming in. I know exactly what needs to go out, because then I can tell you at the drop of a hat, yeah, this costs this to manage our house, our children, all of our everything. It's going to cost X amount every week, every month, every year. Like, it's crazy. But if you don't know that, how are you going to make these decisions?
Yep.
How are you going to make decisions if you don't know what's happening? So please remember this. I would say every millionaire, every multimillionaire, every billionaire, every huge corporation, they all have one thing in common, and it is a budget. The ones that you want to be in the same position as.
Right.
They know where their money's going. They know where it's coming. They know where it's going, and they can predict what's actually going to happen in the future, because that's how they make informed decisions. And if you want to adopt any sort of a habit, I would say it is that.
Yep. Yep. And it gets easier for those of you who might feel discouraged and like, okay, but every time I open it, maybe you are stuck because you're a perfectionist like me. Like, I had to color code it and do all these things. And if I accidentally missed a receipt, I just was like, well, there it is. My whole budget's screwed up. No. And then you have the start stop cycles. Like, let perfectionism go. It gets better the more you do it. Don't give up. Just keep getting in it. You will feel more confident one day. You will be so excited to get in there. One day, you'll get to write a check to an organization that you wanted to support, and it's going to feel like the best thing ever. One day, you're going to get to pay off that debt that you thought would never go away. Hi, my student loans. And you're going to feel like that was the best thing ever. And you were able to do that because you're in your budget. But it does take time. Give it some time. Give it like several months. You don't have to, like, I'm the same way. You don't have to track every single penny. That could be really tedious. And I like to do it on a spreadsheet versus automated apps, because I feel like it kind of gets you to really see at least the categories of things, like where you're spending money. And there's something about when you have to be like, oh, I spent that, like you write it down versus like, oh, it went away and you saw a pie chart and okay, so our food budget went over this month. Like, I don't know. I think there's something more meaningful to typing it in, or you could set up a Zap and an automation to make that happen too. But I think there's something to say about looking at that plan and being able to have real-time adjustments so that you aren't hurting yourself for a long period of time. The first time I sat down and I did this in my marriage, we were overspending by a lot of money. And it was going to eating out, which neither one of us cares for. And we're like, well, that's just because we were lazy and we didn't have balance in our life and we were just grabbing something quick to eat. Let's fix that. Let's fix our schedule and our careers around an available time to be able to make dinner. That was a quick solve that saved us thousands of dollars. I hate saying that, but it was thousands of dollars on just eating out because we could, and we just weren't paying any attention.
And it's convenience, right?
Yeah. And you can make real-time adjustments and not do that for 6 months. 6 months is going to put you in a bad situation, but you can make real-time adjustments if you're looking at it every week. Every week, just get your eyes on it real quick, and it will feel better. It will feel better.
It definitely will. Well, I love this conversation, and I honestly could talk to you for days, because I feel like we just speak the same language and pretty much just us riffing on the things that we love.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, we are very similar, and I love being on this podcast. I love what you're doing for women and encouraging them with their finances. We obviously have so much in common there that, like, obviously I felt like the universe probably wanted us to come together. So
100%. And look, I just want to thank you too for everything that you are doing in the world, because I think it's amazing. I love that you are putting yourself out there. I love that you're speaking about money. I love that there are just more and more women like us actually getting out there and speaking about it, and not, money for the sake of money. It's money in your relationship with it so that you can go out there and you can change the world. So Thank you so much for coming along and joining me. I friggin' loved it. And Janine, just real quick, where can everyone find you? And also all the links are in the show notes as well.
Yeah. Come and hang out with me on Instagram. That's where I hang out, at Janine Mix. And then I also have a link for you guys, your listeners, JanineMix.com/MMH. And there's my 5-step money planner on there. It's totally free. It's a Google Drive document. You can use that. And to start today, start now. It's never too late. You can also get a link to my book on that too. But come and connect with me and let me know what you liked about this podcast, what stood out, and what kind of breakthroughs you're having. I absolutely love connecting with more people who want to grow their finances. It's like the best. Isn't it the best when like you end up making like internet besties around like passionate, entrepreneurial, driven women who want to be the trailblazers for their family?
And maybe for someone listening, you could be the next multimillionaire in your family. The first. Maybe you could be the first just by simply getting awareness and starting to change your habits and behaviors with money. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any of the incredible future episodes and guests that we have coming up for you. And if you haven't already subscribed to our email list, be sure to do so, because we have some pretty epic things coming this year, as well as a magazine will be sent to our subscribers every single month to help you with all things money and mindset, personal development, and entrepreneurship. The world needs more kind-hearted women like you with deep pockets. I'll catch you in the next episode.